Hi boys and girls. Today we're going to revisit the red-tailed angels and we're going to practice drawing inferences. An inference is a conclusion we can make based on evidence. For example, if your dog whines by her food bowl, we can infer that she's hungry. We can look for clues in reading and in life to draw inferences. As we revisit the red-tailed angels, hunt for clues in the words and illustrations. Be ready to share some clues that you find and what they lead you to infer. Chapter 4, Ramitelli Airfield, Italy, June 1944. The entire squadron was gathered in the meeting tent, awaiting a pre-mission briefing by Colonel Lewis. Before starting the briefing, the colonel took a moment to congratulate them for completing 1 year of combat missions. "Congratulations, men," he said, addressing the squadron. 1 year of combat missions under your belt, and today's mission will bring us up to 500 total. I don't think anyone would dare question our abilities now. "No, sir," the men called out in a rally cry. "But now we're in the big leagues. We're flying into German land and it's going to be tight up there. Very little room to maneuver and absolutely no room for mistakes." Once the briefing was over, the men gathered their gear and headed out to the airfield. Like soldiers at attention, their P-47s stood in 2 parallel lines, waiting for them. Each plane's tail glistened with the signature red paint the Tuskegee squadrons used to identify themselves. As they waited, Charlie knew they were all thinking the same thing. Their goal was no longer just to protect the bombers and get them to and from their targets safely. Now they would have to engage the enemy more aggressively. So when I read a couple of those lines, for example, "but now we're in the big leagues," and "now they would have to engage the enemy more aggressively," that gave me a clue that things are about to change for these men, which makes me infer that the situation is different and now more dangerous for them. Charlie climbed into his airplane and secured his seatbelt and oxygen mask. All around him he could see pilots climbing into their P-47s. He recognized most of them from training in Tuskegee, but there had to be at least 100 men flying this mission. There was a lot riding on it, and he took pride in the fact that their squadron had been chosen. He looked over at Tex in the plane beside him and at Smitty and Mac across the field. He gave them a good luck thumbs up, which the men all acknowledged and returned. Then he started his engine and took off for battle. The squadron flew north and met with the formation of B-24 bombers it would be escorting to Munich. As the airmen flew toward their target, the weather became increasingly miserable and low clouds ahead of them reduced visibility. So when I read those clues that the weather is becoming increasingly miserable and that the clouds were reducing the visibility, I can infer that the weather is getting pretty bad and it might make it difficult for them to fight this battle in the air. Charlie passed through a dense cloud and could barely see anything. He knew that he shouldn't break from the formation, but if he didn't find clearer skies, he might crash into a fighter ahead of him. He tilted his plane upward and rose to a higher altitude, and that's when he spotted the swarm of German fighter planes spread across the horizon. So the text says Charlie sees German fighter planes. I can infer that this is a dangerous, and the next part of the story could be a battle. What do you think will happen next? So in your Schoology assignment, you will make an inference about what you think will happen next after Charlie saw the German airplanes. So remember, when you're drawing inferences, inferences help us stay engaged and help us be active with the text. And when we share our inferences with others, it helps us build a community of readers and helps other people know that I'm understanding what I'm reading. So remember, when you're drawing an inference, you're using clues from the text, you're using knowledge that you already have, your background knowledge, to make that inference. And then as you read further in the text, hopefully the inference that you made will be answered. Hopefully you will find that you were correct in guessing what you think might happen next. Don't forget to do your Schoology assignment. You're going to make an inference about what you think will happen next Once Charlie saw the German airplanes as he rose higher in the sky above the clouds.